Hi, today I'm going to go through a winter packing list. Essentially this will be for like a single overnight, but with very little tweaking or adjusting you can make it into multi-day essentially, especially as long as you have equipment for filtering water and melting snow. So the things you need in general are going to be shelter, warm enough clothing, water carrying capability or acquiring capability, food, and tools slash fire making slash whatever other else kind of things that are what you feel like you need for your purposes. I'm just going to go through these things one by one. I'm going to start with sleep insulation slash shelter stuff. So for winter, and this depends on your temperature range that winter is for you. Recently I hit a new low for where I've gone out on bicycle touring temperatures and went down to single digits for the low, and for that my main sleeping bag was this old Cabela's minus 15 sleeping bag, synthetic. It's my wife's, so I did not purchase it, so I don't know the price or anything like that. And we definitely stored it poorly over the years, so for a few years. So it's probably not quite down to minus 15 in temperature quality anymore. But this works pretty well. But because I hadn't gone down to this temperature rating before, for single digits, I also brought my Bell 30 degree super spiral stretch sleeping bag that I've reviewed on my channel before, and wrapped this around my feet and legs and draped it over the top of me just to make sure that I was going to be warm enough. Because what I would not want to have to do is bail in the middle of the night or do something inventive in order to keep myself from freezing to death. For additional versatility, if you've got a sleeping bag that you know goes to 30 degrees but you want to stretch it to 20, you can use something like this Coolmax adapter sleeping bag liner. Well, Sea to Summit Coolmax fabric adapter with insect shield, which I'm going to get good use out of this summer. I'm going to try it at one point and see how it works, because on the C&O Canal you get a lot of damn bugs. Essentially once it gets warm, that whole canal just starts breeding mosquitoes. But looks like this, feels like cloth, doesn't catch on skin, at least not in my experience. So it was a good experience. And I found my sock that I thought I'd lost. Yes! And then, just out of precaution, I brought a little sleeping pad that I cut from a longer roll that I got from Gossamer Gear. And this worked well, especially because the campsite I was at had flooded recently, and so from the Potomac, and so the entire thing was just filled with chopped up ice mud that was just like this every 6 inches everywhere, just like a grid. And that helped protect my sleeping pad, which is my Thermarest NeoAir X-Lite, which I've also talked about on here. Pretty good insulating pad. I definitely felt quite warm underneath. And with the sleeping bags and sleeping system I had, I felt quite warm overall. But because I'm precautious and I wanted to make sure I was good enough, I also had warm clothes that I was wearing in the tent. And the tent, actually, to speak of it, is this old REI Quarter Dome T1. I actually don't think they make this anymore. I've only seen one guy review it online, so I probably won't even do that, because since you can't buy it, why would you want to watch a video about that? But it's a good single-person tent. Because it's a single-person tent, it doesn't have a lot of ventilation, and so it gets pretty damn hot during the summer. But during cooler weather, it is spectacular because you just feel very, very warm without really having to do very much. And so, moving on from that, I'm going to go to clothing. like that? Well, essentially, what I wear for clothing is for a bottom. I wear something, especially at these colder temperatures. I wear something like these Perlo Zumi. Let me see if I can get the exact name off the tag. Perlo Zumi Amphib tights. I think it's the warmest ones they make, which are quite nice. And these actually also have a nice little, they call it a bio break slot. But essentially, while you're wearing it, you can reach down and pull your bits out in order to go take a whiz. I'll wear this with my first pair of wool socks underneath the feet straps. And I didn't bring one over, but essentially any lightweight polypropylene or wool base layer, I wear that underneath the bib top, just so the bib material helps keep everything nice and secure. And then, depending on the temperature, I'll wear something like this winter coat, which for this trip I just wore a base layer and this coat on top for upper layers, which worked quite well. This is a Mammoth downfill power of 650 plus winter coat. I don't remember the model, but this works quite well, and it's got a nice insert hand holds with thumb holes, and it's very nice and just comfy. But if it's not quite cold enough to need that, for a top I'll wear something like this, which is my REI Stratus rain jacket, which is quite good. Protects from rain and ends up being like a well, it's like it's just a hard shell essentially, but made for bicycling, and it's very nice. I don't think I've done a review on this specifically, and if that weren't quite enough by itself, I'd pair it up with like a fleece top, something like this. Oh, upset cat. I'll wear it with a fleece top, something like this, which makes for a lot of warmth boost, especially if you've got our hard shell on the outside of it, either this or this winter coat. This winter coat combined with this fleece will make for a very good warm capability. And so that's for the top. And for this trip, I wore these Showers Pass Refuge pants that I got for Christmas, with suspenders. And these are quite nice, but they do very well at helping drop my increase my temperature range that I can go down to. On the way back, leaving in single digits in the second morning, I wore long underwear over my tights, but between this and the Showers Pass tight rain pants, just to give me a little bit of extra warmth. I might have not absolutely needed it, but it was taking me a little while to tear down camp and eat before I got going, so it just seemed prudent. But this, and especially since I didn't wear my fleece, which is now under all that shit, since I didn't wear my fleece on the way out to camp, while I was in my sleeping bag, I changed out of all my bike clothes and changed into these long johns, and to any pair of pants that you feel good about sleeping in the woods, and a second pair of socks. But I also wear 2 socks on my boots. And in the tent, I'll also wear the fleece, a different base layer than the one I've been wearing, and either and maybe something like this over the top of all of it, just to make sure that I'm warm enough, especially if I want to lie on my stomach and put my hands on my, put my head on my arms and lie on my stomach that way. So that's intense sleepwear. In addition to this nice fuzzy warm hat that I wore during the night just to help make sure that I kept my head warm, and it was definitely needed because the face got a little bit cold and the head got a little bit cold. And for the rest of the on-bike wear, sorry for jumping around a little bit on this, but this is not the big main stuff. For head and hands, I wear, and it depends on exactly what the temperature is like, but I'll wear, if it's essentially above 40, I'll wear just these windproof windstopper gloves, Gore-Tex, I believe. Forget the Manzella windstopper gloves. If it's below that, I'll wear these Swix windstopper mittens, and these are quite nice. And when temperature requires, I will combine these, and I ended up doing that on this trip. For going, when I left, it was mid-20s, and when I was finishing up, it was, you know, getting to the low teens, and then overnight, of course, it was single digits. So, and then for head, I'll wear a balaclava like this one from Cirrus, which I like quite a bit. It's very soft, very cushy, very warm as well, and you can adjust the way it fits in a number of different ways, but essentially I'll wear this in this setup down to mid-30s, and past mid-30s I'll pull, I won't have it covering my face anymore, just my neck and top of my head, and then I'll put this on. So I'll show you what that looks like. And this is a, I believe the brand or the product is called, yeah, Cold Avenger, which is quite nice. This essentially, I've never at any temperature needed to have more head covering equipment than this and this, because since this wraps around your head, it means that all the back is covered very well, and this, the breathing chamber, makes it so that instead of breathing in cold air, harsh air across your lungs just for a long period of time, the air gets warmed, it gets humidified, and it's a lot better. The only downside is, since it's more humid air and the air is still colder than normal, you do have condensation build up and all that kind of stuff, and it can itch on your nose. But it's still better than the alternative, which is just cold, miserable pain. And if it got colder, or if it was wet raining or sleeting or any kind of weird stuff like that, I would put on these Z-Pack mitts, which are essentially waterproof material mittens that I think are a size too big for me, unfortunately, but I've enjoyed these quite well so far. But I didn't need these for this trip, thankfully, but I had them packed away just in case. And then, of course, sunglasses with my take-a-look mirror, and a change of lenses, and another head covering in here just in case if I needed a buff. That was it for the clothes, except for, of course, I forget a couple of little things, except for the second pair of socks, because my feet have a tendency to get cold, so I'm sort of a wuss that way. And so I'll have one pair of socks underneath the bibs, and then second pair of socks over that, and then these are my 45 North Wolfhammer boots that I got this year. Their temperature rating is for 0 to 25. Unfortunately, it does not seem like they work quite to that temperature for full comfort for me. once the temperature gets to 25, if I'm just wearing these and 2 pair of socks, my toes will get numb within like an hour. And past that, it's starting to get to, oh, I'm hosed kind of territory. Or not hosed, but oh, I have to start wondering if I'm going to get a little bit of frost nip along the way. So on this trip, because it was colder temperatures, I actually had some hand warmer foot pads in here just to help a little bit, and it helped a little bit, but it still didn't get me all the way to being super comfortable. But I do like these boots. Maybe if I had the next level down, it'd be more comfortable. But my experience of their temperature rating would be more along the lines of comfort-wise being like 25, like for extended periods of time, for like to be 25 to 50. Once you get above 50, they start feeling warm. And these are just my camp stakes. And so, for water, what I did in this trip, which was a nice little clever idea for me, I used an Osprey backpack that I have, hydration pack, and actually it goes in here, and just fill this 3-liter bladder up, slip it in here, and then I put this on underneath my coat, and I had just enough room to be able to have all this on and set up, just with water in it though, no extra equipment, underneath my coat, and that kept the water tube and the mouthpiece and everything unfrozen, which was great. And so that's how I took care of my first bit of water. And then I packed away an additional 3 liters in here. This is a 6-liter bag, but I packed away 3 because I knew that in a 24-hour period, even with it being cold and even with working a bit harder, I wasn't going to need more than 6 liters. So, and yeah, and this is pretty straightforward. It's a MSR Dromedary 6-liter water bag. Great thing. I'll probably do a review of this at some point. And of course, my Ortlieb classic back rollers for storage on the front, and my Ortlieb back roller pluses, one here and the other one's right up there. And for food, I had easy access food in my Revelate Designs gas tank, which sits right up here, and put in my own mix of trail mix, which is whichever M&Ms I can get in the largest amount of bulk, nut mix and or peanuts, and raisins, dates, something with fruit and sugar. And that all goes into this easy access bag. And for this trip, I actually had this amount and a second Ziploc of about this amount around just in case, because I know calories can be a little bit hard to eat and keep up with. And for this trip, since it was short, I had a cheese block of 1-pound block of cheese and a stack of tortillas. But to stand in for that, I will have a jar of peanut butter right here and a loaf of bread. Same idea. Essentially enough calories for you to make it through the night comfortably, and the evening and night and morning comfortably, and not be dissatisfied with your choices in life. So then, we're going to move on to just basic tools. So essentially, difference between this trip and longer, like a multi-day list, to me is essentially just having clothes that you know are going to be ready for you to put back on every day. So having a full change of base layer, change of tights if you feel like you need a change of tights, or just being able to clean them between each days. And how much of a tool set you bring. the longer or further out you're going, or more difficulty you might deal with, the more of a toolkit you're going to need. Essentially for this, I just had my multi-tool, my Park Tool multi-tool, Leatherman Wave, because pliers are nice when your fingers are cold. I had tire levers and chain lube, zip ties, patch kit, spare link, a couple of master links, and a sponge for cleaning off tires, duct tape for cleaning off chain or other things, duct tape, and 2 spare inner tubes. I say not a lot, but enough. Essentially, if I break a spoke, I wasn't going to be hosed because I was at a campsite that I could be accessed from if needed. And then first aid kit, which has things like Advil, toothbrush, toothpaste, steri strips, which are butterfly bandages, a couple of band-aids, some gauze, an elastic bandage, which is great for being an ace bandage and for being a pressure bandage, and other things like that. Say it's not too complex. And I've already gone through my medical bag before, so not going to worry about it now. For fire, so I was prepared to do a fire this time, but I just didn't end up doing it because I didn't care to, which sort of always seems to happen to me. But I had my polyethylene cotton ball bag, which these are polyethylene infused cotton balls that you just fluff out and then light it with a lighter, and they'll go up and they'll give you a few minutes at least of good light that you can work off of, and if you can't do anything in that amount of time, then that's why you have multiple. And then pocket knife, nice and lightweight. I have a hatchet that I take with me, but it's in the room and you don't need to see it in order to know that I have it. And of course keys, earbuds, MP3 player for listening to podcasts when my hands are cold in the tent. And then of course the bike. And my little bike computer that I have now that actually tells me the temperature, which is quite nice when doing something like this. And my bike pump attached to the back side of my frame because there's enough space right here, which is a really nice idea that I had a while back. And now this is what everything looks like fully packed up, and or the clothes that I'd be wearing. So I'm just going to walk us through everything and where it is and why, as soon as I get this baby off the tripod. And there we go. So these are all the wear clothes: mittens, wind gloves, my MP3 player and earbuds, of course, my wind/rain pants, the amphib tights, the mammoth winter coat, the 2 pairs of socks with my Wolfhammer boots, the balaclava, helmet, glasses with take-a-look mirror, the Cold Avenger mask, my Osprey water pack that would stay underneath the backpack, stay underneath my jacket, I mean, so it does not freeze. This is where the Cabela's -15 sleeping bag goes, because it does not pack down very well, and so it just takes up an entire space by itself. And likewise, the tool bag and medical bag are both in here underneath the Montbell sleeping bag. And this is where I strap down my tent to. And altogether, the reason I have this organized this way is it means the back end of the bike is a little bit lighter, which generally is considered good packing practices when you've got a full load going on. We've got rear and front bags. And then we've got the bike, of course, with its air pump, cat not included, and then Revelate Designs gas tank with Gorp inside, or whatever your treats that you prefer to take are. And then handlebar bag with sunglasses case with spare lenses, the rain mittens, let's see if I can get this to focus, or not, keys, cell phone, and other tools, so lighter, wave multi-tool, pocket knife, PET balls, and bike multi-tool. And then this is actually something that I have recently that I haven't gotten the chance to talk about yet, but this whole setup is for controlling a bike setup that I now light setup that I now have that's powered off of a front dynamo. And for winter cycling, that is very nice. I just turn it on with this little button right here, and with a nice dynamo front hub right there, which you can see. And so continuing to move forward, there's the front right pannier, which has my food and the other sleeping equipment. So this has got the sleeping pad, the sleeping bag liner, and spare Gorp, and essentially, you know, weighty food things. And then on this side, and on this trip I had my hatchet on that side, on there as well. And then on this side is the water bag and all the off-bike clothes that I'll be taking with me, that I took with me. And also the Thinsulate pad, not the Thinsulate pad, the Gossamer gear pad, which is just going to go over there. But yep, I put all the clothing in here, and I put the water bag in the middle. I didn't fill it up because that's just a big pain. But I put the water bag in the middle of all the clothes so that when as the temperature just keeps trying to work its way into the water bag and tries to freeze all the water, the clothes are going to help it be just a little bit more insulated, which worked because my water did not freeze during the whole trip. And in addition to all that, as far as just sort of general tips for your water, keep it in your sleeping bag or inside the edges of it in some way, shape, or form, so that you can have it not freeze on you overnight. And essentially you can do it by having it close to you but not touching you in the sleeping bag. I was able to manage it, so I'm sure savvier, more clever people out there can do better. And of course I failed to mention my helmet with attached Petzl Pika XP2 headlamp, which is very nice for when setting up camp off the bike. And yeah, that's pretty much all of it. With the lights, I was able to roll it deep into the night, or deep into dark, and be perfectly comfortable and happy with it. And that's all the clothes and equipment that you'd essentially need. And essentially for yourself, for any trip, you just have to think of, okay, shelter, adequate clothing, food, water, and whatever fire and other tools you need in order to make everything else work, such as your cell phone or MP3 player or whatnot. And once you've got that down, you're good. It's just that winter bike touring has a lot less margin for error because, well, you can't just walk out the door straight away and be okay about it. You have to accept the fact that you got to be careful. You got to take a little bit more caution on it. Meanwhile, in the summer, I can throw together everything that I need for a trip in, a few minutes and be on the way. And if I forgot something, well, I just turn around and I come back home, or I just tough it out and it's okay. One time I discovered that my open top hammock that I tried to sleep with on the C&O Canal was not adequate because I got enveloped by mosquitoes. And so I ended up having to bail in the middle of the night and bike back home at midnight by the light of a full moon. And it was a perfectly good experience, but that's something where if it'd been cold, if I hadn't been warm enough, or if there'd been some big problem during the winter equivalent to that, that's pretty harsh. Like, whenever I sat up in my tent, I'd lose fingers in my hands if I didn't have gloves or mittens or something on. And so it's not very forgiving. But it is fun, and it is adventurous, and I would definitely recommend it. And also, like, for instance, I went to a campsite that's generally very busy, and at this time of year, and essentially any of the colder months, I've got it all to myself. And it's big and expansive and has a great view, and it's a very nice spot. And you don't get that during the warmer months. So, hope you enjoy and hope this was useful for you. Thanks. Bye.